I will start by acknowledging we're on the homeland of the many diverse First Nations and Métis people whose ancestors have walked this land since time immemorial. We are grateful to work, live, and learn on the traditional territory of Treaty 8. And for the adoption of the agenda, any additions or deletions on this one? Councillor?
Just have a statement I'd like to read after. Call it 1.2 statement.
All right. A statement. Any other changes? Seeing none, all in favor? All right. And I'll turn it over to Councillor Wakel.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On October 6th, a tragedy occurred in our community with the sudden loss of Oakland Cunningham. As a parent, I was saddened. As a town representative, I was horrified that this happened here in our town. To Oakland's family and those who loved him, I want to extend our heartfelt, sincere condolences on behalf of the town of High Prairie. I know the town shares your grief, parents' worst nightmare. Through conversation on a since-deleted Facebook post, it was brought to my attention that the town failed to properly acknowledge this tragedy. What followed was a dialogue about our different cultures and why both sides acted as they did. I promise that I will continue to learn and do my best to be better. There was the suggestion that the town should have some sort of memorial, and various ideas were put forward. When the time comes for this, we will seek input from Oakland's family to be sure we get it right. And I guess I'll move that for information.
All right.
Probably be the.
I don't know if that's a move for information or if that's just a statement.
I think we should move it just for information. We've got a statement was made and
So
it was
moved.
on the agenda.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Any other comments on that at this? No? Yeah, it certainly was a tragedy. There's no doubt. All in favor? All right. And we'll move on to our public delegation. Yeah, please come on up. Yeah, we're ready for you. Yeah. And if you remember, yeah, just turn on your mic and give your name and where you're from, so everybody out there on internet land will know. Yeah.
Good evening. I'm back. Carol Hanlon. I'm the Executive Director at the High Prairie Native Friendship Center. Tonight I'm coming here for two reasons. One, I would like to publicly thank the Mayor and Council for allowing Mike and his Public Works crew to come out and hang red dresses along our walk when we did our Sisters in Spirit walk. And I'd like to thank Mike and his crew for making that happen. It was appreciated, and it gave a lot of discussion to a lot of community members asking what the red dresses were hanging around town for. So it brought a lot of awareness to the Sisters in Spirit walk that we did. The second reason I'm here is November 8th is Aboriginal Veterans Day, and I would like to start an Aboriginal Veterans event in the town of High Prairie. I noticed that outside of this building there's an empty flagpole. I have received an Aboriginal Veterans flag, and I would like to know if we could do a ceremony on November 8th, have the flag, the Aboriginal Veterans flag, hung up on that empty flagpole outside, and then I have a couple Indigenous drummers coming to do an honor song. I'm rounding up some people, and we want to do some kind of event out here, and then we want to lower the flags at half-mast. I'm not sure if the flags would stay lowered until November 11th, or if that would be something separate. But if we're allowed to use the flagpole and have a ceremony out here, I want to lay a wreath at the veterans flag. So I'm looking for approval to do that. Eventually, I just want to put this out there, eventually the Friendship Center will be looking at some plot of land around town. Maybe, what's a park called down by the Friendship Center? McIntyre Park?
Yes.
Maybe we could do it there, or I'm not sure what's happening with the old hospital site, but I would like to see a parcel of land for the Friendship Center to use, so we can put up monuments for the different activities that we have. Like, you know, we could have flagpoles there for the Aboriginal Veterans Day. We could have the symbol, the red dress symbol. There's a monument for the red dress Sisters in Spirit walk. I'd like to see somewhere where the Friendship Center could put some monuments up, and we could do our ceremonies there. So that part I just wanted to put out there, that at some point I'll be looking for something. And the old hospital, depending on what they're doing with it, that might be an ideal location for a parcel of land there, so that we could put some monuments there.
Okay. Well, thanks for, so really there's sort of three things there, and but I'll start with just really quick thanks for the thanks to our Public Works staff. That was great, and we have Vernon here that can pass that along, and Bill too. So it's always appreciated to get a thank you for what they do. As far as November 8th goes, I know normally when we have delegations come in, we don't usually make decisions right then, but I know it's getting time sensitive for planning and everything else. I don't know what our policy would say about, and I thought did we not have 3 flags or just 2, but perhaps.
Perhaps I can speak to it in terms of, through the mayor, in terms of the policy, the intent of that flagpole that does not have a flag currently on it is for community recognition. So this event would fall right within the policy. There are some timelines in the policy, of course, given the time sensitivity of the issue. Council can waive that and provide relief to the organization seeking to have that date. There is an annual process if the organization wished to continue, that we would reserve that date for your purpose. For other groups, no, it isn't available, but it's all in the spirit of the policy as it stands now. Then that's the intent of that additional flagpole for recognition of various community initiatives or community groups to give recognition for their purposes.
Oh, so it is there for that. Okay. So we can work with that, and she talked about the lowering of the flags on that day. I don't know if would it be all of the flags and then back up and then down for Remembrance Day. We'd have to look at what would be appropriate.
Through the mayor again, we would follow the policy in the flag policy as it relates to Remembrance Day specifically. But again, the community flagpole can have different parameters attached to that flag raising and lowering. And I would just suggest the group work through my office and we could accommodate whatever is reasonable.
Okay.
Okay, and the third one is a location. I think we'd have to maybe come back and work with administration on that, on some ideas, and just really quick, in regards to the hospital land, we don't own it. It's, you know, Alberta Health Services owns that land. They were hoping to sell it, was the last we had heard.
Oh, okay.
So it's really not in our hands to even discuss that one. And then there's things like McIntyre Park, we can have some discussions and see what would work, or maybe another spot that would be better, but we can go from there.
Okay.
Councillor Waco?
Thank you, Your Worship. As far as areas for the, to have your monuments and stuff, two popped up in my head right away. The first is our friends and neighbors across the road from Esso. Maybe that's something that they could get behind and perhaps even help as far as funding. I don't know that they would do this, but
Yeah.
you know, they've been sitting on that for over 20 years. And the other piece of property that popped in my head is the old daycare site that's behind the subway and all that area there. It's a pretty big open area. I don't know how feasible it is. I don't know if that's an area that you would want to have this in. There may be some logistics with that. Those are just two areas that popped into my head right away. But to have a chat with Bill and Fern would probably be a good source for information on the old daycare site, if that would be suitable.
Okay. Yeah, somebody else had mentioned the old Esso site too, and I've been trying to contact somebody there, but we keep playing telephone tag. Because there were a few sites, and basically I just wanted to put it out there that eventually we will be looking for a home for our monuments.
Yeah, well, I mean, then the thing is I want to make sure that this goes into a place that it's not, they're not going to just, well, I mean, the danger with Esso is that eventually, well, we're going to clean it up and sell it.
Yeah.
Well, crap, right? Now you got to move all your stuff, and I don't want that to happen. That would be an advantage of the old daycare site, because I believe the town owns that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because then it could be more permanent there.
Yeah.
But just a couple of ideas.
Perfect. Thanks.
Okay.
That's all I had.
That's it. Well, thank you very much for coming in again.
No problem. Thank you.
And work with Bill on the flag for Indigenous Veterans Day.
Okay. Thanks.
All right, moving on to item 3.1. It's our peace officers report. Can I get a motion on this? Councillor Martins.
I move that council receive Senior Peace Officer Alan Bloom's report for September 2022 for information.
All right, I'll turn it over.
Good evening, Council, Mayor. Nothing out of the ordinary other than we are addressing unsightlies in the back alleys still. Getting very good compliance. Other than that, I'm open to any questions Council may have.
All right, any? Councillor Waco?
Late night theft of vehicles and rummaging through vehicles seems to be on the rise again. How are your patrols in the evenings, early morning hours going? Is it, it's impossible to gauge, I guess.
Yeah, we're staggering them.
Yeah.
We're not giving any consistency to when we're there or what we're going to.
Has there been any traction with citizens on patrol? Has that?
Last I heard, they're trying to organize a group to get things going, but I haven't heard anything else.
Okay. Because that's what's going to be the difference, I think. And they're going to need probably 40 or 45 volunteers for that, I think, for it to be viable for any length of time.
They're going to, at least, I don't know that many, but
Well,
fair number anyway.
Well, you try to have it so you're not doing it more than once a month, and if somebody, gee, I'm out of town, you know. Same thing that happened last time, right? Like they had about, I think they had 25 people, and it was good for about 8 months or almost a year, and then people just stopped and it fell apart, which is unfortunate. That's why you need the higher numbers. Mr. Mayor, perhaps, can we advertise this somehow for them and help them to get this off the ground a little bit?
Well, I think we can, I mean, we can put it on our sign if it's a group that would like it there. There's a forum to advertise for
Yeah.
it. We can put it on, you know, help put it out on the website if it's needed,
We-
like our website and or through Facebook on that.
Incorporated into our monthly newsletter too.
Yeah, if
Yeah.
it goes out with the bills,
Yeah,
something, just to,
oh, absolutely.
to
Can help with that.
thanks, Alan.
Nothing. Councillor Martins?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Alan, 2 questions. The municipal warnings, are those the unsightlies, or
Yes.
is that what the municipal warnings are?
Yeah.
Okay, and then secondly, with the Citizens Patrol, is that something you're spearheading? Your office,
We
or is it?
we can assist and guide him the right direction, but
Was there a wait period? Does anyone know, or who's the actual command? You know, who's spearheading the effort?
it's either, I'm not sure if it's Barry still interested or Darcy Foster, his name came up. But yeah, if they need guidance, we're there to assist. And the RCMP, we're supposed to appoint a liaison officer to assist also.
Good, so there are supports. Thank you.
Have you talked with Darcy on this again, saying getting it going? Because I know that's the name that I'd heard
Yeah,
before.
we haven't for a while, but we can reach out again and see where he's at with it.
Okay, and we could help a little bit if that would work, so. Okay, good. Anything else? I just had a question. One dog surrendered to peace officers. What happens to a dog that's surrendered? It goes out to animal rescue?
Yeah, it goes to in the woods.
Okay. All right. I don't see any other questions, so we'll receive the report for information. All in favor? Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to our Public Works report. Can I get a motion on this one? Councillor Yashishin.
I move that council receives the October 2022 Public Works Report for information.
All right. Grandpa Walker.
How did you know there was another one coming today? She's in labor right now.
Oh, wow.
Yes, but thank you. Mr. Mayor and Council, I'd just like to touch on a couple points in the report. We completed the water line relocation between 53rd and 54th Ave. You'll be pleased to know it came in well under budget. We're still working short-staffed, doing the best we can with the people we have and trying to train new employees that have come. And as well, we're down about a month and a half on the reservoir. We haven't been able to pump since the end of August. And we should be okay, but I just would like to caution that we're hoping to still pump more water yet. If we can get some snowfall, some runoff. It's just a concern at this point. It's not a red flag quite yet. And I'll open it up to any questions.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Wagle.
I suddenly have lots to say. I know the water intake, is that still at the bridge by West Fraser there?
The railway bridge.
Railway bridge. I know we talked a lot before about, like, is that the best place for it? And if that is the best place for it, is there a way, we'd need permission from environment, I'm sure, but to scoop out that riverbed there somewhat and make it a bit of a pool so that there's always water in it? Or is that?
That's
The
almost,
environmental
that's
gods don't
almost
like that.
impossible to do on a flowing river.
Okay.
You're dependent upon the flow coming down in order to pump.
Right, okay,
There's not a big area to dig there.
right, okay. That's it, just good job on, I know you guys are working shorthanded, and as always, you're doing an amazing job. And it's much appreciated by people around town.
I'll pass it on.
Councillor Martins.
Good to see you. Congratulations, imminently. The lift stations you mentioned, are they 1, 3, or 7, or all of the above, or just 1 and 3?
Which point are you referring to?
Second page, fourth, or third from the last. Where did I see that?
Oh, no, we're preparing them all. They'll all get their wet wells cleaned out after the lines are flushed.
And so what was happening with we were told last year that 1 and 3 had to be,
Oh, you mean the capital upgrades? Yes, this is different than a capital upgrade to the lift station. This is just a regular maintenance thing that we do twice a year to ensure the pumps don't get clogged up and that type of operation, and no sludge ends up going into the forest mains. 1 and 3 are the last of our lift stations that are fairly old that need capital upgrades.
I guess this will be a budget question then, because I was going to say to you, so is it scheduled? Last year we were told that it had to get done, but maybe it's a next year thing, and I'm sure that our budget will reflect it somewhere.
It is in the capital. That's one of the projects that council did have the engineering pre-done, so it was shelf ready, is number 3. Number 1 has not been done yet.
All right, that's all. How long can you leave the pump in when it's starting to freeze here? It's got to.
Well, we're going to leave it in as long as we can.
Oh, okay.
And then we've had it frozen there with a foot of ice before and still removed it with no damages. So I was hoping this little bit of snow we got would have fell heavy in the hills and melted off Thursday and Friday when it warmed up, but apparently we didn't get too much in there.
Well, maybe this Thursday and Friday it'll come. It's supposed to get warm again.
We'll leave it for a little while longer. Yeah.
So if it's down a little bit, that should still be enough to get us through to the spring when the runoff runs, right? Like I know
It should be.
before.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So just that it's not as full as you'd like it, but should still be enough from.
Yeah.
Good. Okay.
I like it full at this point of the year. But
I hear
unfortunately, we haven't had moisture in quite some time, so it's just a word of caution.
All right. My other question, have you been working with talking with the people at the Dairy Queen lot? How is that going along, that construction?
It's going pretty good. We did finish there. Our portion of it, we do need to still do their gas service. They're not ready for it. But from what I understand, they're waiting on trusses.
Good. Yeah, it looks like they're waiting for that.
Yeah.
The walls went up quick, and then it sort of stagnated there, it looked like.
Yeah.
Councillor Daneka?
Just a question. How's your staffing intake coming? I've seen that they've been reposting the advertisements, hoping you get some interest. Any luck?
Not on the last posting so far. One comes, one leaves. It's just, and then you're training new people to as fast as you can, but it's time consuming.
Right.
All right. Well, thank you very much, and hopefully everything goes smooth.
We should know in a few hours. It's another boy anyway, so
Oh, okay. Well, congratulations.
thank you.
Thank you for coming in. We had a report to receive for information. All in favor? Carried. Moving on to our minutes from October 11th. Get a motion on these. Councillor Waco.
Move we accept the minutes from October 11th as presented.
Okay. Is there any changes needed to those minutes?
Oh, nice one.
Donna, nothing? You're the one that catches the errors if there is any. Nothing. Okay. All in favor? Carried. Now we're moving right along here. Moving on to our CAOs. Are there any business arising from the minutes first? I should ask that. All right, seeing none, I'll move on to our CAO's report. Get a motion on this one. Councillor Martins.
I move the council receive CAO Bill McKinnon's report and action list for information.
All right, thank you. And so with that, I'll turn it over to our CAO. Can highlight anything he wants to highlight.
Again, just further familiarizing myself with the town operations and facilities. Big item, of course, is budget development, when there'll be budget meeting scheduled part of November. One of the items that isn't on here is, it is on here, is the open house, which was tentatively scheduled for November 1st. I believe that date will be discussed later for potential later date in November, given the timing and lack of venues to hold the event within the municipality. Again, one of the projects that I'm specifically driving is our current banking service arrangements. And the intent of that project is really looking at optimizing our investment returns to provide some relief in the 223 budget. Again, there's numerous meetings, and as I alluded to last council meeting, we're trying to move these reports that have backward-looking activity, but also indicating what's coming up in the next week or two for councils better informed or may wish to have specific issues brought up at those meetings I'm attending or other staff will be attending in the future. So that concludes my report.
All right. Questions or comments? Norvell. Councillor Daneka.
This is not so much related to the CAO's report, but do you have a timeline for the bylaw review committee? Because there's lots of updates that have been made that the bylaws need to be updated on. Like we just did the timing of the meetings, and there's a few other things. I think our fees bylaw has to be updated and stuff. So do you have a date in the future when scheduled bylaw meetings so we can clear some of these changes to our bylaws off the books and added to the bylaws so they're relevant and up to date?
I could address it briefly tonight. The fees bylaw will be coordinated with the budget, so the budget will potentially impact the fees bylaw, so that will have to be updated concurrently with the budget deliberations. In terms of the other the bylaws, I would segregate them into 3 initiatives, and I'll bring back an RFD to council for information on that. But is what bylaws have to give effect and are sort of housekeeping bylaws that have to be put in place, such as the borrowing bylaw and all those have to be in place prior to year end, the interim budget, those type of housekeeping bylaws. Then there's a list of active bylaws that need review through the bylaw committee. And then the third category is bylaws that really should be just struck from the books that are redundant or are expired and are not valid anymore. So that would be the framework that I would outline in the RFD. Realistically, the focus for November is going to be on the budget and the like. So prior to the end of the year, there will be an RFD before council articulating the areas of focus in that bylaw review.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
I had a few questions. I'm just, one of the things I noticed when I came back from one of my road trips is that the utilities have been flagged in my yard. What's happening? Who's doing that?
I don't have an answer, perhaps if Vern may have an answer.
What type of utilities have been flagged?
Well, it looks like it's the cable line. I was wondering if that was Canadian Fiber Optics was what initially came to my mind, but if somebody's coming in to do something like that, don't they have to get a permit?
Yeah, I'm unaware of, at this point, why your yard would have been flagged.
Well, and it's not just my yard, it's the
Way
whole,
along there?
yeah, it's the whole crescent there is.
I know we have had discussions with Canadian Fiber, but as far as I know, it's not Canadian Fiber. I'll have to look into it a little bit further, and I can relay the message through the CAO as to why.
Okay, yeah, no, I was just, I'm not sure who was doing it, and thought we would know when something was like that was coming through, and they would probably have to get a permit.
We all agreed that I was going to get fiber optic first.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just wondering if there was an update, and I could have asked it on at the Joint Rec Committee. I should have asked, but was there anything on that rollout ice pad? Did we learn anything more about that?
No, that's still under investigation. In terms of there's probably the next one I can anticipate is the crime grant. So we did get follow up that it's still in the works, and no decisions will be made prior to January on the crime grants.
Well, it's prior to, I thought they had said it would be sooner than that. But
No, we have an email saying that they're not in a position to make announcements till January, February time period. So
Is that, I'm sorry, forgive my ignorance, is that federal or provincial?
provincial.
That explains lots right there.
all right, okay, well, that was one of my other questions. So the other one I had was asking about any development or on the municipal development member at large. Have we been able to get anybody on that?
Not a state, and the legislative services officer and me are discussing that in terms of, again, re-advertising the vacancy and the like. So.
Okay, and I know that you're meeting with MMSA on November 3rd, so that'll probably get an update on our asset management project at that time.
Yes, and I did meet with MPE, our engineers on record, and basically have a framework to see what municipal service agency is doing versus the data that they have that could be valuable in our asset management strategy. So again, the CAOs are meeting with McKenzie Group next Thursday to review the budget and 3 or 4 other priority projects that are joint projects between the municipalities. So I'll be able to provide council with an update after that meeting.
Okay, thank you. Have we heard anything more on the status of the culvert on the hospital land? I know they were going to come up with a price and that kind of stuff. Have we gotten anything?
There's still emails going with outstanding information, so that's still in the works.
Still in the works, okay. The other one, and it might be more of a James one, any update on the rural renewal program application?
That application goes out the beginning of November, I believe, is the next window of opportunity for that, so.
Oh, okay.
Probably won't hear anything until, end of November on that.
Okay, and thank you. The other one was, have we heard anything from ESSO about them coming up and talking about the lot?
No word directly from myself. I don't know if any member of council has had an update from ESSO.
No. Were you're going to contact them though and see, because they were going to come up here during the summer, and we were going to look over and talk about ideas for the lot that they could support.
Right. So I'll send them an invite specifically to come up again.
Okay.
Or come up.
Thank you. All right, those are my questions.
Do you know approximately when those flags went?
Yeah, I got back, let me just try to. I'm trying to think of which, because I've been on the road so much, I got back and I went, wow, that's a big, it was Friday. I got back on Friday and they were up on Friday when I got home.
Yeah, I'll just check locates here.
Okay. All right. Anything else for our CAO? Yeah.
Everything's going as well as it we expected.
You look too fresh and too, too fresh and too clean, so what's going on?
Just my haircut.
Yeah. All right. Well, maybe, once you're here for a while, you'll have more of a haircut like mine and Burns after a while. All right. We had a motion to receive the report for information. All in favor? Oh, okay. It's carried. Moving on then to item 14.1, the Legion's request. Can I get a motion on that? Oh, Councillor Danaka.
I make a motion that council recommend that the mayor or deputy mayor attend the Remembrance Day ceremony at the Royal Canadian Legion in High Prairie on November 11th, 2022.
All right. I know I've done it before, and it's a really good event, and I'm planning to make it. So.
I'll sit in the crowd and listen to you.
Yeah. So should be able to make it, but if not,
I'll be there anyways if you can.
okay. All right, all in favor? Carried. And now, notice of upcoming meetings. Is this when you wanted to talk about the open house event?
Yeah.
Or, yeah.
So, through the mayor again, the availability of venues for that November 1st date are slim. So most of the appropriate locations for that date are already booked. We've been trying to look at alternatives, but again, to have a free-flowing room is best. There is an issue now that it's only a week away, and it would be tough to get the news out. Of course, we plan to advertise, on social media and ideally in the newspaper and other venues. Kelly has put together a beautiful open house invite that is attractive and has icons for each of the service areas of the town, and it's basically come out, have a discussion with council, meet and greet. Canadian Fiber is also mentioned in that advertisement brochure and the like. So that's the intent. We're currently canvassing dates later in November that would provide an opportunity to finalize the working tables per se. And again, the concept is there will be 5 or 6 tables, each department having their own sort of boards with pictures of various projects that have already been undertaken in the current year, but also talking about future years' projects. There'd be other community information such as, where do your tax dollars go? How do you sign up for pre-authorized payments? Protective Services would be doing, have available brochures and information on sort of the top 5 bylaws in town, and allow the residents to have a flow-free conversation with staff, and council members would be also in attendance, fielding questions and conversing with the residents as the residents would have questions to council or to specific members of council. So that's the intent of the event. We're really strongly suggesting the council from administrative perspective, we target that latter part of the month. Canadian Fiber has given us 2 key dates that for sure that they would be willing and more than enthused to come up and do a more formal rollout and information session for the residents. But that's the feel of it. Tomorrow we will have hopefully word back from the 2 or 3 most highly likely venues of what dates they will be. So I propose that once we have those dates, we do a survey monkey out to the council members, and hopefully there's a consensus of a date, and then we can get the word out in the streets, so to speak.
Something else as well that we could promote at that open house is have a sign-up table for COP. It's, hopefully we get lots of people coming and they can get some interest and
We could
get some more eyes in the
invite
streets.
to attend even.
Yeah, absolutely. And just have a sign-up sheet, to express their interest. And I can't remember if the House COP is set up, I think there's a central agency. I don't know if they'd be able to send somebody. It may have just been that we were spoiled when we had it set up last time because we had Mike Poulter and Brian Holmberg, both who passed on, but they had been heavily involved in COP before, and so they knew all this stuff, and they were a great resource for it. But that might be something else to look into once we firm up our date. See if we can't get Darcy. Hopefully he can make it, or somebody else that's involved with it, and see if there's like a central person from COP provincially that would be able to come up and let them have their 15-minute or 20-minute presentation like Canadian Fiber Optic will have as well.
So is there somebody in charge not? Like that's what we
Locally?
need to find out, right? Yeah.
Locally?
Like who's
I don't know.
spearheading this, right?
I don't know. I think we'll start with Darcy and
Yeah, I
see
think that's
from
what
there.
we need to figure out first, because otherwise it's going to.
Oh yeah,
I don't
no,
want
we'll see if
look like
Darcy
it's
can do it.
wishy-washy all over. We need.
Yeah, we'll start with
right?
Darcy and see where they're at. Like if they're not close, then. But if
It's good. It's great exposure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So
Yeah.
that and then see about getting if there is a way to have somebody come in, or maybe one of His Majesty's troops can come and maybe they'll have a few words they could say about it as well.
Okay, so basically that any objections to moving that date later on, or do we really want to push it forward for the first? Go ahead, Councillor Martin.
No, I think that's a good idea. I think there needs to be a runway, because I was just going to say before I saw that we were moving it, that I haven't seen it being advertised. There isn't really, I ran into some people recently and there was no talk about it, so I like the idea of moving it, giving it some real exposure. I mean, you need time to advertise, so, yeah. And do you have any, I know you've got 2 dates floating. Are you willing to share those just to see if?
I believe they were November 22nd and 24th.
All right, so we're okay with leaving. We'll finalize those dates as we get more information on what venues are available, and see, hopefully we can tie it into when Canadian Fiber Optics is available. Yep.
So we do have council meetings scheduled for the 22nd, and we have evening council meetings. We were looking to have this event on the evening, so does that?
Those 2 days were the week that Canadian Fiber was most available. So again, they may be flexible on the 23rd and 24th.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the 24th, we have a budget meeting.
Oh. So,
So I like the idea of postponing this until we find the right venue. I mean, I think there's, like, I don't know if we're sort of tailoring this to be more of a town event as opposed to sort of a multiple agency event. I mean, inviting the RCMP to be there, they can talk about, because I'm sure that's a concern with the people here in the town, just by what I'm seeing and what I'm hearing. They would like to be able to talk to them and say, hey, what's your plan, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, yeah, I'm in favor of moving it until we find a proper location that will be able to facilitate what we're thinking of doing. So, yeah, it's just a matter of finding those dates that work.
okay, so we'll leave that with administration to work out. Vern?
To answer his worship's question, it is Canadian Fiber. I went back to early October and found the locates.
Okay.
So that is Canadian Fiber. That's had people mark out utility locations in that area.
Oh, okay. Okay. Hopefully that means they're coming there first. Yeah. All right. So with the upcoming meetings, maybe we can just have a motion to receive for information.
Yeah. I'll make that motion.
Okay. Councillor Wakel makes that motion. All in favor? Carried. We'll move on to our verbal reports, starting with Councillor Danaka.
A couple meetings. First one was the joint fire review budget. Basically, there's a modest increase just from shuffling things around, just for increases in insurance, carbon tax, etc. Basically, that's an increase of $1,600 to their budget on either side. The one issue that did come up from there, and it will probably be coming to the ICF committee, is that Fire Chief Cisorowski would like to take the revenue that's earned from Rita, can you help me? What was it?
Structural fires.
Thank you. From structural fires, the revenue earned from structural fires, to be placed into a restricted account that would be an account that money would go into for future projects or future equipment that would benefit both the town and the county. Basically, if there was something that was required, it would have to be agreed by both councils that they support the purchase of whatever said equipment would be. Again, and that would be beneficial to both. It's not the town's reserve, it's a mutual reserve for replacement of equipment or purchase of new equipment that benefits both the town and the county. So that will probably be coming to the ICF because they would have to review that section. But basically, at the end of the fire budget, both the two county councillors, Councillor Monteith and Reeve Nygaard, and myself and John Dunn support the budget. So when it comes to the budget process, when we vote on it, we both said that we would support it to our councils. The other meeting I had was the museum, regular board meeting. The one main issue that's stemming from that is and it will be looked at once the lease is expired, is the fact that in this lease, the museum is responsible for the building, which doesn't make any sense to us because we're a small organization and we can't afford that big of a maintenance ticket. Even though Darlene has applied with support from the town for the CFIP grant to get some of that stuff done. As well, I believe she has a meeting with you, Bill, to discuss some things. One of the things that she'll probably bring up, a heads up to you, is that they're looking at approaching the town to remove the 2 tables that are in front of the museum on the east side there, because that seems to be attracting the homeless and the drunks, for lack of a better term. They fight, they leave their garbage there, they sleep under the trees, etc. So looking at possibly taking those out and making that handicap parking for the specifically for the old age vans. They can park a little closer. It's a little easier for access for the wheelchairs, etc., to get out and access the museum. But like I said, she's going to be meeting with Bill to discuss some of the other issues that came out of that meeting. And other than that, I move my verbal report for information.
All right, thank you. Questions, comments? I was wondering if they heard anything about the grant, or when will they might hear about the grant for the building there?
I can't remember the date.
January. For January.
No, January.
Yeah, January. I can't remember what she had said.
Okay. All right. Seeing nothing else, all in favor? Carried. And we'll move on. Councillor Martins.
So since last meeting, the meetings I've attended, the official appointments for the Health Advisory Council, our region is Lesser Slave Lake, was October 1st. So they had a mandatory orientation on the 18th, just to go over, what advocacy means versus what advisory roles pertain and so forth, and conflicts for those of us who sit on councils. The 2 things of import were an information session that I attended, put on by RPAP, Office of the Alberta Health Advocate. Did anyone know that such an office existed? I learned about it. It's a catch-all. It reports to the ministry. So Minister Copping is who they report to, and it's this place to go to if you have, it's either patient concerns or, if your complaint doesn't fit somewhere, that's the catch-all place. And I didn't even know it existed. It was a great information session. I'm happy to share my notes as well as the slide deck. And I don't have it here because I screen captured everything on my computer, but they gave some helplines that were really good because I wrote them down for my next committee meeting, which was last night, and it was the big one, and that was our second meeting as a group for the Joint Health Professionals Attraction and Retention Committee. Now, Holly Hanfield from RPAP does sit as a non-voting member of that board or of that committee. We also expanded it after the first meeting in September to include regional inputs from some of our Indigenous communities around us. So there's 3 new members. There's also an AHS representative. Some of these are non-voting members, but it was good to have them seated at the table to hear inputs and so forth. So at yesterday's meeting, we actually went through some of the items that we would start with right away. Brett from Big Lakes County happens to be our secretary, and so he came up with sort of a structure for our strategy and all of that. So we went through that process last night. I'm trying to think of what else immediately. We'd like to put a prospectus together, much like I did for the doctor tours over the last couple of months. I did it very rudimentary, black folder, but we want to do something more. There were so many great ideas around the table, so we'll look forward to putting that together with possibly grant money, which is really exciting. That's part of it. We had done terms of reference, but we updated it. I'm open for questions. I mean, there was so much that came out of yesterday's meeting. It's we meet every other month, and I think we've got a really good group assembled. There was more ideas and more things to do, so we had to say let's pick our quick wins. Let's narrow our scope because there's always we can expand and expand. But we have a really enthusiastic committee and some great ideas from Holly, who sits at the table. Our next meeting is in December. But yeah, that's my verbal report for information, and I'm open to questions.
Councillor Danaka.
As part of the attraction retention thing, how am I going to put this? Do they have tours of like the hospital for like nurses, EMTs to come and see and sort of be that person for a day just to see what it's all about for those people that are going through the process of becoming LPNs, RNs, EMTs, that kind of stuff?
So there's very clearly, it's why we called it health professionals, not just physicians, attraction and retention. We were very clear to delineate recruitment, which is an AHS initiative, right? They do the recruitment, and for the physicians, I know the lady, and you know the lady as well, who does recruitment for physicians. Of course, that there is a shadow, and it's not always our facility, but yes. Then we even talked about opening the scope to students, and even Pratt and St. Andrews. I mean, so we had to come back and say, look, what can we do in the short term? I mean,
right.
Students is the tertiary field. So yes and no. I don't know how they handle LPNs, nurses, but the scope is for us, for our committee. We serve our two councils, obviously, so we report back here. We had to rein in some more. One of the quick start items was an experiences basket, like, hey, let's put a kit together and show you things in the community. Let's even kind of how billets work for hockey. You adopt the family. A lot of people move here and don't know. Where can I get my nails done? I mean, things like that, right?
Yeah.
Because if the wives are happy, and I'm not just saying that we're recruiting males, but if the spouses have what they need, then we've got. So short answer to your question, Donna, I don't know how those tours are set up. AHS does it for the physicians, and they have another allied health group that does nurse recruitment, so that would be a great question I could certainly ask. But the answer is yes, because I'm pretty sure that we do those kinds of tours.
Okay, thank you.
Just wouldn't be our committee that does that. We want to do community attraction, right? Let's go to Burns Farm and see the chickens and ducks. I mean, let's go to EC Ranch and do the corn maze. Let's put a ticket into the Park Theater and go see a movie. Things like that. So it's
okay. Yep. I understand.
Okay. Now, are you guys meeting monthly or bi-monthly?
Every 2 months.
Okay,
So
but you just met and then you're meeting in December.
this was the
And then you met
October, November, December, right? End of December, December 12th. We have also set third Monday of every 2 months. So it's 2 months.
Oh, okay.
This was the anomaly.
No, that's right. You had said every 2 months, and then I was
September
going on
29th. You're right.
Yeah.
And actually, it's because we didn't want that much time to. We worked on terms of reference, and we felt like nothing was getting done. So 2 months seemed like forever to action something. So you're right, this was an anomaly meeting.
Okay.
But from now on, we'll stick to that 2 month, and then we pick the Monday 2 months, every 2 months. The other thing I should point out is look for a survey link. It's mainly designed for, hey, not only is this attraction, but how do we keep the people that we already have? Because it's obviously retention is big. So we want to survey not only members of our community, what keeps you in rural Alberta, what keeps you here in northern rural Alberta, what keeps you a happy, healthy AHS staff member here at the High Prairie Health Complex. So that survey link so far has about 55 respondents. We'd like to, so I'll send the link to everyone. I mean, send it to your friends and family, especially those, you know, we also realize that we're attracting a certain demographic. We're not attracting a 50 plus, we're attracting a demographic of 30 to 50. So that's our sweet spot. It's not us, we just happen to be, that's who we're attracting into the fields. And some are coming, like the one lady shared her experience, you know, a young family coming from BC. Daycare was a big theme, you know, what do we do with our kids? So yeah, there's some recurring themes from that survey, but we'll wait to get more feedback than just the 55. So if you see that survey link, please send it out and encourage participation. Thank you.
Okay. The other question I had, is there any word back on the doctor that was toured a month ago?
I asked that yesterday because, you know, he was in my heart of hearts, he was quite the hope. His name is Dr. Courage, and his wife, he was going back to Nigeria to bring his wife. They had just gotten married. So now November is when they're coming back together as a couple. So he isn't even here in the country yet. So I don't know.
But he hasn't made a selection that we're aware of.
Shauna hasn't communicated that.
Yeah.
But the good news, it's not a no.
All right, that's good. Okay, did you move your report?
Sorry, I'll do it again. I moved my verbal
sorry,
report for information. Yes, I did, because I said I'm open for questions.
Okay,
So, yes.
okay. All in favor? All right, over to myself. I'll start with Heart River Housing, and with the Pleasant View Lodge addition, the new building. It's closer. It's getting a little bit closer. They're working on getting the certificate of occupancy now, and once there is the certificate of occupancy, then they'll be able to start moving people in. They are close on that. They're hoping that it'll be done this week, so that's good. There's a lot of logistics that I didn't realize that once you have there's some, you know, once you get that, and then you have to pay X amount of dollars by law to finish this contract up, and yet we have more work done than what's left, so they're trying to work out something. So there's a lot of little moving parts in there, and there's still a lot of little repairs to be done in most of the units. They've really focused on getting 4 or 5 of those units ready, because there's people that are without a place to stay, or they're staying in hotels, or U-Haul vans. They're staying in their trailers. So we're really trying to get some of those people in there. Not everybody, so it will be focus on getting those ones that really need it first, and then moving the rest in after. So yeah, it's getting closer. It will happen before Christmas, but how much before? I'm always skeptical to say, because every time you think you get somewhere, you take a step ahead and then you take a step back. Just one other example of some of the details is everybody thought it was all right. The inspectors from Superior Safety Codes went, well, no, those doors are supposed to be fire doors. They're supposed to be metal. They weren't metal, so now they're talking they might have to take out all of the outside. This is the outside door for the storage. Might have to take all of those 20 outside patio storage doors out and put new metal ones in. Well, that's a huge cost, because everything is sided and put in, and trying to take it out. And these are tiny little rooms that have a sprinkler system right inside, like they're 4 by 6 or something like that. Like, they're small, and they got a sprinkler in there. So why is a fire door that critical, and why was it just identified now and not way earlier? And it's just stuff like that just keeps coming up, and you're going, holy man, how do you deal with that? So if people move in at this point, they can't use those storage rooms because they're not certified, and you would think it should be easy, but there's lots of little issues like that kind of stuff there. The Heart River Housing's got that other project going in Fox Creek. That's going much smoother. As you know, they started in January, and it's 8 units and a common area for Fox Creek, and it's coming along. They're figuring that it'll be in early in the new year that they'll be able to move in. So that's they're moving along great guns. They're starting. Heart River Housing's starting to prepare for another build in Falaire, and looking at that and having all kinds of discussions on what that would look like. Is it 10 units? Is it 20 units? And all of those kinds of discussions and getting dollar figures. So lots of interesting things happening with that right now. We did have also a joint rec committee meeting, and some of the highlights from that is we had a discussion on the recreation master plan, and from that we identified sort of the 3 top priorities for the community. We're taking those 3 top priorities and putting a price tag to them, and coming up, and we'll, from that price tag, we'll send it out to our residents to say, well, how badly do you want these? For example, we'll use the multiplex or field house. We had a price tag on that, and I know administration was working with Mackenzie planning to say, okay, this is how much it would cost, put it into our budget, this is what it would, an increase on your taxes, roughly, this much of an increase. How, do you want it at this price? Because everybody's going to tell you they want a multiplex, right? But when you say it's going to cost, it's going to double your taxes, are you as interested? We'll have to find out. I suspect not. But we had the 3 top priorities was the multiplex, a dog park, and the splash park. So they got prices on all of those, and they're coming up with stuff on those. And then we can put it out to residents to see if they're interested. We also, there was a request put in to increase or open up the morning swims again. The pool has been getting lots of requests for the morning swims. Our rec superintendent says that she'd like to do it. They have the staff to do it, but and we're concerned about the costs, but they're going to open it up from 6 to 8 and then close it down again, so that it wasn't before when we opened it up, they started and then they stayed the whole day. So it'd be a bit of a split shift. The staff was fine with doing that. So basically and it's on a trial basis until, what was it, June? That they would see if this is going to work, and it should be an increase in service with little or no increase to the budget. So.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, it was July. We were going to bring it back in June to review it to see if we're going to continue it.
Yeah, so it's on a trial basis, and that'll be starting up again, which is good. We also looked at the budget for recreation. Their budget had an increase of about $50,000 total, which was $25,000 to each municipality, and most of that increase was due to chemicals, increased utilities, carbon tax, those sorts of things was the biggest chunk of it. There was a few other smaller things, but I think that was the biggest parts of it. The committee, which was myself and James on that committee, did say it would go forward. We said to bring it forward to the rec committee, so the rec committee budget review people can get a good look at it there. We've had a little bit of a chat about Canadian Fiber Optics and them coming. We've got a meeting scheduled with them coming up tomorrow afternoon, 4:15. I think I sent out an invite to you and Councillor Yashishin about that for the broadband one, so you should have it just today. Yeah, and just another, not a meeting, but just an interesting little tidbit. Tim Hortons is holding a job fair today and tomorrow, and I was chatting with them there, and they're hoping to get 35 people. You know, that's a big employer when you're employing 35 people. You know, I'm not sure what, you know, they'd be one of our bigger employers in the community if that's how many they employ. You look at how many other businesses in town employ 35 people. So it'd be a big major employer for that. They have quite a few people that came in for interviews, so hopefully they'll get it. They know they don't have enough from what they have. They have their 2 full-time managers that are trained up and ready to go. And so hopefully that'll come along good. And just as we're saying, we have a couple of other upcoming meetings, that Northern Alberta Elected Leaders meeting and the Alberta North Central Alliance meeting is coming up November 3rd and 4th, those 2 meetings. So with all of that, I'll move my report for information, but I'll take any questions before we vote. Councillor Martin?
So speaking of getting closer, I was hoping to have a cup of tea in my hand November 1st. I was told November 1st. It's in my head. What's the new projected date?
They were, what they said was 3 to 4 weeks. December 1st, yeah. But we can get you a cup of tea. It might not be
It has to
Tim
be
Hortons.
Timmy's. No.
Get hockey cards.
Yeah. All right. No other questions? Oh, one
Sorry,
other.
one more thing. So when was or is intermunicipal rescheduled? Because they canceled the last.
Yes, there is no new date as of yet. I don't know, have you heard of anything yet? No.
I had a brief discussion with the interim CEO, and he's hoping it will happen before the end of this year.
So, yeah. All right. No other questions? All in favor? Carried. Councillor Wakel?
You left me a couple of things off the rec board.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. A couple other things from that. The gun show is going to be happening. Let me look at the calendar here. The gun show is the 15th and 16th of April, and basically on the 17th they're going to start taking the pad out to replace that, and they're pretty sure that they're going to have that all ready to go for everything in the fall. And the other thing was Northern Bottling has agreed to get us a new score clock, because the score clock in there was old when you played Regals, Mr. Mayor. And they're just finding one that's suitable, and once they find one, then it'll be put in place, and we won't have to guess if that's a 5 or a 6 anymore on the board. Trying to think if that was those were the two big things. Is the gun show is going ahead, and then basically the next day they're going to start ripping the pad out. I think the ice is coming out. Well, it's going to depend on if we have a Treaty 8 tournament. Ramona didn't know about that yet, but Red Wings are done. The last weekend of March is their absolute drop dead date for local playoffs, and then after that it's nationals, which are I think in Winnipeg. But so the Red Wings will be done at that date, and then whether or not there's Treaty 8 will determine when we pull the ice out. Gun show, out comes the pad, and we get the best ice back in the Peace Country again. And that's all I got. Nothing else met this month. I move my report for information.
Okay, any questions? Councillor Wakel? All in favor? And you know, I think we got to change up this order, because it's always unfair, or, you know, like I hear you, oh, you left something out, right? Because everybody covers the meetings before they get to you, and I know the same thing with Councillor Yashishin. So maybe every second meeting I'll sort of change the order around so it doesn't, it gives others a chance. I'm thinking if you could get left out. Yeah. Councillor Yashishin.
Thank you. Oh no, that's usually all fun because it's there's usually always something to add, but that would be great too. I was at the Health Professionals Attraction and Retention Committee last night.
Yeah.
It is. I have to almost look at it closely and it was great. There's a lot more members to welcome and meet there, which is really good. As was mentioned by Councillor Martins. Really good conversation, very enthusiastic group. It's you can feel the energy in the room and the ideas and there's a lot of times the chair has to really bring it back, which is fantastic. So just one thing to note though, or one thing to add, I guess, is just we have attraction in the name of the committee. But it's really also about retention too, and that came up. That was really key. Is that the 6 months mark came up 2 or 3 times, and if you can keep somebody in town at the job for 6 months, once you get over that 6 months, it's looking pretty good, or looking better. So really, really key with that, and I think that's something we'll really focus on as well. Councillor Martins talked about the attraction, which there's lots going on there too. I just saw late this afternoon, Brett sent out that the survey is going to be out, won't be out till next week. So watch for that survey link next week. I just made a note here that I see he sent that out to us there. There'll be a lot to report on, definitely with this group. A lot of great ideas. One of the things that was identified and came up as a question was, what do we have out there now, and what do we have from the town and the county? What is there at present? And people brought up, yes, we had this, we had that. Great point to start at. That we really need to. That's the most important thing to put together, because as we're getting new people coming in, that they made mention. A lot just really don't have the information on the community. Somebody said, I didn't know my gas was included on my bill, or like there isn't a lot of that information that you can go to a page and look, and maybe not gas in particular, but you can go to the page and you can see, oh, okay, here's this, here's that, and that's something that will be worked on as kind of first priority there, as was mentioned as well. So again, like I said, what's going on, very enthusiastic group that I look forward to reporting back on there. I too was at the Advocate. Remind me how that goes again. That's very good. I do have the information on that as well. So if anybody's interested, it is, I would say, anybody that wasn't able to join that, it would be really worth going over. It was recorded, so that'd be. It was a lot of good information for me. and I learned a lot from that as well. And I move my report, unless there's any questions.
I'm just curious, where is the group meeting?
Big Lakes County,
Oh, at the county? And who's chairing?
Sasha,
Oh, Sam.
Councilor Marks.
Okay, good. And there was some talk about a grant. What's happening? What grant is that?
It's a $5,000 grant to aid in the communications effort, to get that prospectus that we talked, the folder, the promotional folder. It said
From
yesterday,
Who's got the grant?
so Brett's, Big Lakes County this is a joint committee, so Big Lakes County is taking the lead on applying for the grant. It's a $5,000 grant. It was submitted October 7th or 17th, pardon me. And the timeline is, I don't know when we'll hear back. He wasn't sure, but of course, he did mention yesterday that we do have that additional 2,000. We're not talking money. So far, everything that we're planning is, yes, exactly. This isn't, now, the last committee I was with, we did have all of the members, so for example, Big Lakes in the town, we had a small, very nominal per capita, so each ratepayer 10 cents or something. So over time, that money accumulates. We, of course, had incentives for the position. We're not doing that here, so there isn't even talk of money at this point. We just want to do it with team spirit and enthusiasm.
Excellent. Okay. I don't have any other questions. Seeing none, move to report. All in favor? All right. And there's nothing for the closed session. All right. So with that, meeting is adjourned.
Just so you know,